Hey, what's up, everybody? How's it going? This is Glen Ritter here with the End Zone Oracle. Hope everybody had a fantastic Thanksgiving weekend, even though the Thanksgiving games did not play out like any of us predicted. Both that and the Black Friday games, I was 0 for 4 as far as the picking the winners for each of those. Yeah, that was not that was not good for me. Anyway, then I think the first game that went final on Sunday also I missed that one too. Awful week when it came to making predictions for the winners. But anyway, welcome to the show. Again, I'm Glen Ritter here, Minnesota Insider for IE Sports Radio. We got a lot to talk about, lots of injuries and some things like that are going to be happening, a lot of games to discuss. But again, if you want to find me on X or on TikTok, you can find me on X at Gritter13 or TikTok is IESR Minnesota. Again, I'm the Minnesota Insider, so I cover Vikings, Twins, Timberwolves, Wild. They're playing fantastic right now. Jesper Valstead, 4th shutout in the last 6 games. Just a great goalie. So anyway, we're not here to talk about that though. But message me. Feel free to message me on X, or we can chat about that. And then also we have Josh Ritter here, who is I'll just let him talk about all the teams that he covers and how you can find him.
Before I do that, four shutouts in 6 games is insane in hockey. So good for him.
For a 23-year-old rookie.
That's insane. I don't think I've ever seen that before. But yeah, I am the eclectic insider here at IE Sports Radio. I follow teams all over the country. We got the Dolphins. We got the Phoenix Suns. We got the Toronto Blue Jays. The struggling Florida Panthers. That's kind of surprising, but we have a lot of injuries, so that's understandable. And the Oregon Ducks football team. Let's go get Chris Henry Jr., by the way. We got that number 1 receiver recruit we're trying to steal from the Buckeyes right now. Let's get that done in the next 24 hours. But, yeah, my teams are kind of scattered all over the country right now. North Carolina Tar Heels basketball got a big win yesterday over Kentucky, so that was kind of nice. So, yeah, my teams are all over the place.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks for being here again. Let's see. So you know how to get hold of each of us, right? But we also just recently created a new account on X. So this one is just for fantasy football. So if you got any fantasy football questions, go to at Endzone. Let's put that back up there at Endzone IESR on X, and you can message us, direct message. Tag us in a post and a question, fantasy football related, and we will do our best to answer that question for you. So Sunday mornings, usually up early, getting ready for the games that day. So check those out. Also, as a station here on IE Sports Radio, you can follow us on all these different platforms. We've got we're on X, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and recently returning Instagram. So you can follow the station and see all of our videos, all of the different shows we've got. In addition to the End Zone Oracle, we've got the Set Point, which is a dedicated show to volleyball. We got Fast Break, a basketball show. We've got let's see what else. The Neutral Zone, dedicated to hockey. We've got the Bullpen Bulletin, dedicated to baseball. We've got the racing show just ended, but and then Shinpans and Shenanigans, dedicated to soccer. So whatever your sport is, you can find our shows, especially on YouTube. You can watch all of our previous episodes, all of their previous shows, and tune in and check out whatever your sports desire is. You can check it all out there. So all right, but let's get into our normal weekly Oracle report. Let's talk about some of those top performances of the week. So I always kind of like to look through and kind of compare how my predictions were from the previous week of saying, here's some guys that I think have good matchups and you should start, and seeing how many of them actually show up the next week. So I did that this week. It's the first time I've done that. And this is our 14th episode, right? We're week 14. So first of all, quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. I think going into it, everybody knew he's going against Dallas's defense. They played pretty well, stopping the run. Dallas did get the win, but Kansas City was able to pass the ball. So he definitely had a great game. Running back Bijan Robinson was one of the top performers. And then one person that I did have as a start for last week was Rashee Rice for Kansas City again. Kansas City, going against Dallas's defense, their pass defense has been very suspect all season. And Rashee Rice and Patrick Mahomes took advantage of that. A.J. Brown bounced back this past week, going over 100 yards and a couple of touchdowns against Chicago, which, again, we're like, Philadelphia has been just so up and down this year. That was a tough one to predict. One that I totally whiffed on was somebody that I said to potentially sit, and that was Brock Bowers, and he had the most points in fantasy football for tight ends last week. So it's not an exact science. we look at matchups, we try our best, but missed on that one. And then another tight end that really had a huge week was Trey McBride, who is kind of on that list pretty much every single week. He is definitely one of the most consistent tight ends in fantasy football this year. And then when it comes to defenses, couple that one for sure that I talked about last week as one to start was the Seattle defense going against the Minnesota Vikings. I knew that it was going to be ugly. Didn't necessarily think it was going to be 26-0. I didn't necessarily see Max Brosmer just flailing and flipping a ball right to a linebacker so he could return it 95 yards for a touchdown. But I was right about the idea to start the Seattle defense. And then the other one that had a huge week was Buffalo. Josh, any others that I missed that you wanted to touch on?
First of all, I'll say I watched that play Brosmer made live when I happened to be watching it live when he threw that ball. And before I even saw there was a defender there to catch it, I was saying, what in the world is he doing? And then, of course, there's a defender there and he runs back for a touch. That was horrible. And that guy looked bad all game. I feel bad for you. That was just really rough. Really rough.
That was rough. As a Vikings fan, obviously that was difficult. And then on top of that, I was just thinking that why just kick the field goal? Yeah. You're down 3-0. Just kick the field goal, tie it up. Yeah, because the defense played really pretty well all day. You take away that touchdown, then they lose 19-0, which was 4 field goals until a touchdown run at the end of the day for Zach Charbonnet.
Yeah. So when you talk about, we didn't even talk about this, but I kind of had a similar philosophy when I was looking at best performers, because there were a few that I have told all of you that you should either like bench in your lineup or kind of give up on that had great weeks. One of them being Jordan Love. I told you all, like, Jordan Love, I don't know what's going on in Green Bay. Of course, he comes out on Thanksgiving Day and has a great day against a good Detroit Lion defense and throws for 4 touchdowns and, has one of the better performances of the week. So go figure. Apparently the dude loves the Thanksgiving Day environment and played really well. So good for him. And then the 2 running backs that stood out also are guys that I have told you kind of like probably give up on. I made a big point last week about the schedule that the Bears were going to have the rest of the way. And that DeAndre Swift probably is somebody that you shouldn't even consider starting in your lineup. And, of course, he goes for 125 yards and a touchdown. Didn't see that coming.
Right. And think about it. He was going against Philly. I mean, they should be able to shut down the running game.
Yeah, and then you think Rico Dowdle has been the main running back in Carolina for however many weeks now. Chuba Hubbard has come back, but he hasn't now. So I told you guys probably don't start Chuba Hubbard. 83 yards and a receiving touchdown. I mean, should you be listening to me at this point? Probably not. It's been a rough one. But I will say one that I liked that really stood out for me was Jamison Williams. I haven't really touched on him a lot, but with Amon-Ra's injury, he really jumped up this week. He got 144 yards and a touchdown. That was a good performance, and that's something I think could be sustainable going forward. So that's someone to look at for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there too. And there was something. I was reading one thing that I read about the Rico Dowdle situation was that he has trouble with pass protection, which is the reason why Chuba Hubbard's getting onto the field. So
interesting.
Yeah, it's there's all these nuances of things that you have to kind of try to navigate and try to keep up on. And it's hard to do that with 32 teams. So
yeah, it's important.
Learn it after the fact.
To be able to do that. Yeah, if you can't protect against a pass rush, if you're asked to do that, you're a liability.
Yep. They're going to keep you off the field. That's the way football works. So we already touched on a little bit here of the some of those poor performances of the week. Any others that you want to touch base on before I get to my list?
For worst or for best? No,
worst.
For worst, right when I start telling you all, it looks like he's turning the corner and everything is back to where I thought it was going to be at the beginning of the season. Travis Etienne goes out and lays an egg, 5.1 points. I really thought that he would be kind of reasserted himself as that lead back in Jacksonville, and it just didn't happen this week. So that was rough. Justin Jefferson continues this really difficult season. I feel for anybody that drafted him in the first round because it's just not working out. He had 2.4 points this week. And for me, Jalen Waddle, I thought he was going to be consistent every week the rest of the year because the Dolphins don't really have any other targets. But New Orleans did everything that they could. They triple covered him sometimes to take him out of the game, and he only had 7 points. And that was he wasn't even targeted very much when he just didn't catch the ball. Like they couldn't target him because they just took him away, and that Tua's struggles kind of didn't help with that. But those were a couple of players that stood out to me that I thought would have a good week that just didn't.
Yeah, for me, a couple. Excuse me, sorry about that. A couple of the guys that really had off weeks, and well, first of all, Sam Darnold really didn't do very much against his former team, so that was good from a Vikings fan perspective. And I really wasn't necessarily expecting a lot, but the Vikings really did do a good job of shutting down Darnold and Jackson Smith and Jigba. Who only had 2 catches and 24 yards or something along those lines, which is far below his average. And I think he was in most fantasy football sites said that he's the number 1 wide receiver for the week. So, yep, and he has been all year. Yeah. But so those guys really kind of laid a bit of an egg. Lamar Jackson is we're going to talk a little bit more about him, but he had another awful game, and going against Cincinnati, he was one of the players I thought, okay, that's going to be a good start. He's going to bounce back. He had a couple of down weeks and didn't do it. Saquon Barkley has been rough this season, and we're going to talk a little bit about him later on in the show. At receivers, both Zay Flowers and Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr. has been just so inconsistent all year long. I'm not sure why. Trevor Lawrence has gone away from targeting him this year, but he hasn't taken. It's definitely been a sophomore slump for him this year. He's had a couple of games here and there. I thought, okay, he's back from injury. He had a good matchup. I can't remember who they played last week, but he had a solid matchup and had maybe 2 catches and about 25 yards, something like that. It was
Titans, which is one of the worst
Titans. Teams. Thank you. Yes, it was against the Titans.
So bad.
Should have definitely had a lot more points there. And then Dallas Goedert, again, just maybe because AJ Brown was able to get those targets in Philly, but as somebody that's a typical every week start as a tight end. If you have him on your roster, if you didn't invest in a guy like Brock Bowers or Trey McBride or Travis Kelce earlier in the draft, that's somebody that a lot of people can depend on if they've got a good core of the rest of the team,
right?
And really didn't put up much for that. So, so those are kind of those iffy performances of the week. Thinking about injuries, we talked a little bit earlier. Amon-Ra St. Brown left the game on Thursday very early in the game with that sprained ankle. They're playing tomorrow night. He still has not practiced this week, so he's listed as questionable for the game. I don't think he's going to play either.
No.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that too, as to who some of those players that you might want to target just in case to fill his role potentially.
Yeah.
Drake London still dealing with a knee injury, has not returned to practice yet, so I'm guessing he's probably not going to be playing again this week. T. Higgins, I think he's cleared concussion protocol, so he's probably going to be playing for Cincinnati. So Cincinnati's going to be a kind of a interesting watch the rest of the season with Joe Burrow back.
Yep.
They really lit up the Ravens, which I was not expecting. I was expecting him to be a little bit rusty, but Cincinnati was they played really well, and their defense showed up, which was just crazy in my mind. Omarion Hampton is potentially going to be playing this weekend, so I think they're looking to potentially pull him off of the injured reserve list and start him. So they've opened up the 21-day window. If you have him on your roster and Kamani Vidal is available in your league, pick him up. Then when it comes to game time, you can start either one. Because if you, especially this week with the buys, there's a lot of running backs on buy this week. I know, and on one of my teams, I've got Travion Henderson, Christian McCaffrey, and Rico Dowdle, all on buy this week. So
wow,
yeah,
like last week, so they're still using them. So
yeah, so it was one of those things where, oh boy, I need to find. I do also have. Who's the other running back I have in that league? I do also have another running back, but I still need a second one. Oh, yeah, so I've got Bucky Irving. So I've got a solid running back. He's he was stepped up last week, so he's kind of back. Are there any injuries that I missed?
No, I'll just say if you own Amon-Ra St. Brown, do not expect him to play tomorrow. Very, very, very few times do you see questionable players play on a Thursday night. It just doesn't happen because they know that they now have 10 days after the next game to get ready for the next week. I would bet any amount of money that Amon-Ra is not going to play. So I wouldn't bet on him. I would be looking for a guy to replace him right now, because you're probably not going to be playing him come game time tomorrow. And we all know how hard it is sometimes to remember to check your lineup before a Thursday night game. So if you have him in your lineup right now, thinking he's questionable, maybe I'll start him. I would advise you just to go right now and just put him on the bench.
Well,
and
after the show,
the game is playing, then you can put him back in. But like, even if you put him back in with an ankle, he might play a quarter and re-aggravate the ankle. So you have to be really careful with that anyway. Those soft tissue injuries, you have to be really careful that first week back. So I wouldn't expect him to play.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I agree with you. I don't think he's going to play. And just from previous experience, it's not so. If you can't trust the player out to be in there the entire game, sometimes it's better to just err on the side of caution and go with somebody else. Which leads us to our waiver wire pickup discussion, because somebody that you could probably pick up, I would imagine is going to be available in pretty much every league that plays for the Detroit Lions, Isaac TeSlaa.
Yeah.
He went after Amon-Ra St. Brown got injured. He was in on 100% of the offensive plays after that game, after St. Brown left the game. He's going to get plenty of targets. Jameson Williams is going to be the number one beneficiary of targets, but Isaac TeSlaa is somebody that could and probably will step in there and perform pretty well for Detroit. And remember, they're going against Dallas, so Dallas has been able to given up a lot of yards through the air. They were better against the run. Since Quinnen Williams has been added to the team, they've kind of shored up that run defense, but the pass defense has still been pretty porous. Let's see a couple others to look at. Jacoby Brissett. Again, you're going to keep hearing his name. He has been a solid quarterback in fantasy football.
Yeah,
not saying he's playing for Arizona. It's a lot of garbage time. It's going to be a lot. They're always going to be behind. They're going to be throwing the ball a ton. And he gets you points. So he should be on a roster in every single league.
And they're going to be playing a Rams team that needs to win that game. They're probably going to be down at halftime by quite a bit.
Yep.
That's a solid play. In fantasy, a quarterback of a bad team that's going to be behind has a lot of value because they're just going to be throwing the ball all over the field.
Yeah.
Yep.
Another quarterback that probably you might want to add to your team is Bryce Young. He's been surprisingly pretty good as a fantasy quarterback. He's been able to hit Teteroa McMillan on a pretty regular basis this year. He has actually scored more fantasy football points this year than Lamar Jackson.
Wow.
Yeah. Think about that. Let that sit in for all of us.
He doesn't play this week, but he's someone you can pick up and stash for.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Thank you for reminding me about that, because we will talk about some of those people on bye this week, because there are 4 teams on a bye. As far as running backs go, Blake Corum is continuing to get a good share of carries every single week for the Rams. Kyron Williams seems to be a little bit banged up. He has not performed as well as everybody drafted him to be. And Blake Corum's really been getting the goal line carries. So definitely somebody that would be worthwhile to add to your roster. Devin Neal for the Saints with Alvin Kamara. I believe he's still going to be out this week with his knee injury. He's going to be getting the lion's share of carries. Again, it's one of those situations, though, where if the Saints fall behind, are they going to be running the ball that much? But they're I can't remember who they're playing this week, but I'll look at that here.
The Saints are playing. Who are they playing?
The Buccaneers.
The Buccaneers.
Yeah.
So, and actually, my guy is a Saint as well, ironically. So, but
okay. Another one, Jordan Mason. Especially if Aaron Jones is still out, it sounds like Aaron Jones is probably going to play, but if he's out, Jordan Mason would get those carries. And going against Washington, I think they're going to really be relying on the running game, hopefully more than they did last week. And let's see, we already talked about receivers. As far as tight ends, Darren Waller, who Josh mentioned last week, and I picked up in one of my leagues as another tight end, especially if you've got a tight end that is on bye this week, like a George Kittle, and you need a tight end. Darren Waller would be a good choice there. And then Harold Fannin is really kind of building a relationship with Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland, would be another option for you.
Yeah. So my team, and so obviously I paid attention to this game last week, played the Saints last week. And I will say that the Dolphins did what you would expect them to do, which is bracket Chris Olave the entire game. And I figured that was going to be enough because I didn't know anything about New Orleans' team beyond Chris Olave from a receiving perspective. And this kid, Devon Vele, had a heck of a performance. And I will say it almost felt like he was a security blanket for Tyler Shuck towards the middle of the game. Like he started to get some chemistry with him. And every team that plays the Saints, including the Buccaneers this week, are probably going to make their entire game plan, do not let Chris Olave beat us. And so I think that Vele is going to continue to get a lot of targets, and he could have some decent fantasy value. The Saints are going to be down a lot, right? And they're not a good team. So they're going to be leaning on some of these young guys to just see what they have. I think Vele could have some good upside for you from a fantasy perspective coming into the last few weeks of the season. If you've got an Amon-Ra St. Brown on your in your lineup and you have to replace him with somebody and you don't have any good options for whatever reason, maybe your other players are on buys, he's someone I can almost guarantee you he's available, and he's probably got a decent floor because they've got to throw the ball somewhere, and Chris Olave is going to get bracketed. So that's the guy that I think can step up and give you a good week.
Well, and that's a great point too, because the other thing about the Saints offense is Tyler Shuck has been a kind of under the radar, decent quarterback for them. I think he's third in the NFL in yards per attempt.
Yeah.
Was what I do. they were just talking about him as a super sleeper in fantasy football for this week, just because they're going to be throwing the ball a lot, and he seems to have been able to make good choices when he throws the ball and complete some passes and get some yards. So great options there. So let's talk about those bye weeks again. So this week we've got Carolina, San Francisco, New England Patriots, and the New York Giants are all on bye this week. So that means your guys like Travion Henderson, Christian McCaffrey, Bryce Young, Brock Purdy, Drake May. Let's see, Rico Dowdle, Ted McMillan, Jackson Dart. All of those guys are on bye this week. So if you need to replace those guys,
does this wrap up buys? Are we done with buys?
This is the final week of buys. Yes. Okay. After this, all 32 teams will be playing the rest of the way.
There you go.
So you got some options there. Let's tell you what. Let's take our. Well, no. Let's go into our start, sit, quit. Let's get that done, and then we'll go to a break. So, start, sit, quit. Usually, we've always kind of depends on how much we chat. Well, it kind of determines whether we take a break there or not. Right. So for me, my start, sit, quit. I'm going with the quarterback position.
Okay.
So for me, start this week, even though they're playing the Rams, Jacoby Brissett. He's proven to be somebody that you can start pretty much any week. He's going to throw for a lot of yards. He's going to throw a couple of touchdown passes, might throw a couple of interceptions, but he's putting up solid numbers. My bench of the week, Lamar Jackson. I just can't go another week with him. He has to show me that he's healthy enough to be able to play to his potential, to his ability, because it's been a frustrating season as a Lamar Jackson owner. And then the player to quit, Tua Tagovailoa. He's he just hasn't had that season. He's had a couple of games here and there. But you know better than anybody else there, Josh, right? Tua just hasn't, the opposing defenses have really been able to shut him down pretty much most of the way. And I'm not sure who are they playing this week?
The Dolphins? Oh, yeah. They are playing the Jets. So you would think that'd be a good matchup, but it's at the Meadowlands, which is supposed to be 40 degrees, which Tua does so well in cold weather, I'm sure. So
we'll talk. I've got some notes about the weather, potential weather issues coming up later in the show. But
so can the Dolphins quit on his $50-something million a year contract as well? Because I would really appreciate that as a Dolphins fan. If you all want to know how I actually feel about Tua Tagovailoa, go onto my TikTok account. It's all there. I promise. I've talked about that. And that's at Josh.Ritter57 if you want to know how you feel about Tua Tagovailoa right now. So my start bench give up on is kind of a mixture of running back and wide receiver. So my start of the week is Jameson Williams. And we've kind of talked about this. Amon-Ra is going to be out. Dallas has been better on defense, but I expect this to be a game. It's a Thursday night game. I expect it to be a high-scoring game. And Jameson Williams is going to get his share of the targets. I know he had a good week last week. I expect him to back it up this week. I think that team has found something in him, and he's now the primary target for
Jared Goff, yeah.
I still get them confused. Matt Stafford would ever be a lion to me. Definitely still the primary target there, and I think he's just going to have a really big week. So I would definitely start Jameson Williams. The bench, I've talked about this already. ETN is playing Indianapolis this week. I feel like this is a game for the division, and I know Indy's been struggling, but I think Indy's going to be up for this game. Travis Etienne, you just can't trust him. As soon as you start to trust him, it goes back, and it's just very frustrating to be an owner of him. And I don't know what the Jags' plan on offense is with what's going on with him, which goes right into my give up on, which is you've talked about him already, Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah.
I give up on him at this point. For whatever reason, Trevor Lawrence does not want to throw to him. And I don't understand it. He's super talented.
Mm-hmm.
I can only shudder to think what Brian Thomas Jr. would be doing if he was on the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, Trevor Lawrence doesn't want to throw to him. The Jags have a good record, but they're just completely infuriating from a fantasy perspective. I don't know week to week if it's matchup dependent, the way that the Patriots used to be under Bill Belichick, where you never knew who was going to be the guy that got the touches week to week.
Right.
Maybe that's where their coach is at, and he's got some experience, so you can understand that. But like, I just start Jacksonville Jaguars with just extreme discretion. Just be really careful with it because they don't have any consistency on their team week to week.
Yeah, and I agree about Brian Thomas Jr. I've got him in our IESR league, and I've got him on the bench, even though I have Ted McMillan on a bye, and I can start 3 receivers. I'm going in a different direction with him, just because, again, you can't trust them at all. So anyway, all right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes here on IE Sports Radio. You're watching the End Zone Oracle here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We'll be right back.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
All right. Welcome back to the End Zone Oracle here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. So please, please, please support our sponsors. Vital Apparel, fantastic, comfortable workout gear. If you need some new gear, you want to start working out in the new year, I want to get a Christmas present for somebody that wants to start their workout journey, go to Vital Apparel. Mention IESR, get 15% discount on some great comfortable workout wear. And also Planet Jerky. I think you maybe saw the little sticker on my water bottle. Let me show you what Planet Jerky is all about. This is a nice little bag. I just got some last week. And here's what that beef jerky looks like. Can you see that? That is premium brisket beef
I'll
jerky.
take some.
I wish I could hand some to you there in California there, Josh. It is absolutely delicious. Got some, like I said, delivered last week. That's where I got the stickers. And I always have, I have 2 bags in my office and then 1 bag here at home. So it's just such a great, clean, protein-packed snack that you can have either, mid-afternoon, mid-morning, between meals. You need something to just get you through. Great product. PlanetJerky.net, I believe, is their website. Just search for that. You won't be disappointed. It is absolutely a fantastic product. So, all right, let's move along to our next segment of the show: Panic or Patience. So we're going to talk about a few superstar players. I would say that, well, most of these are superstar players, all pretty dependable players, I would say, that are just are they going through a rough patch, or are they, or should you just put them on your bench, or because the trade deadline's passed and you can't do anything with them? So first, let's start with Lamar Jackson. We already talked a little bit about him. Has scored less points than Bryce Young in fantasy football. He's had 3 straight weeks of single-digit points for a quarterback, especially a running quarterback like Lamar Jackson. Is that a panic or patience move that I put him on the bench in my league because I'm starting Matthew Stafford as was the other quarterback I have, who's been a phenomenal quarterback this year.
I'll tell you, I like everyone knows I've got 8 leagues and I've got him in 3. Right, we've talked about this for weeks, and it's cost me for sure that he's not playing. Unless you have somebody else that you've been able to pick up that you can trust enough to put in that spot, it's really hard to bench someone like Lamar Jackson, especially when they're right there for the division lead. You know they're going to need to play well to be able to make the playoffs. As much as my heart tells me to panic, I feel like I need to have patience with him. It's been a rough year. He had the injury. He was out for a minute. He's come back. It hasn't been great, but I just over against some of the competition that he's going to have. The Steelers are a mess this week, and it's a rivalry game. I have a hard time benching Lamar Jackson in that situation at home. So they're playing at home against the Steelers. Mm-hmm. I got to be patient with him. And I've considered it in every single one of my 3 leagues. I got CJ Stroud in one of those leagues as a backup. It's agonizing. It really is, because Lamar Jackson should be you just put him on your starting lineup. You don't even think about it, but it is super.
Only bench him in place in when he's on a bye. Yep. Typically, I would agree.
It's just so hard because Lamar Jackson can go off for 40 points in any time.
Yep.
And that week where you sit him could be the week that he does it. So in all good conscience, I can't tell people who may not have a CJ Stroud as the backup to put him on their bench. Now, if you have somebody that you feel confident in, if you've got a Jared Goff or a Matt Stafford or one of those guys that has a pretty decent floor, then you can really, I think that you can feel comfortable saying Lamar Jackson just doesn't have it this year and put him on. But if you're going to pick up a Tua, or you're going to pick up a Bryce Young even, who's been better, you really want to put that person in place of Lamar Jackson? Probably not.
Right. Yeah, which is very true. But I think we would have said the same thing last week with Lamar Jackson going against Cincinnati. That's a division rival.
You're right.
And a much worse defense than the Steelers.
Yeah.
And he just laid an egg. I mean, he had like 5.5 points. As a quarterback, you need at least 15 to be an average quarterback. And getting a third of that is just really tough to take. That's probably part of the reason I'm out of the playoff race in our IESR league. But anyway, that's my thoughts.
You're not wrong. Like, it is a very difficult thing when a guy has all the talent and you know that he can go off any week and it's just not happening. And you don't know when that time is to pull him out, because that time when you pull him out might be the week that he comes back and plays really. And it's just,
Yeah.
like, it's one of those fantasy football conundrums that is unsolvable because you just don't know.
Right. Well, and the thing is, like, he hasn't looked like the running quarterback that he's always been.
Right.
And that's where so much of his value has come from, is being able to run the ball, escape the pocket, and run for a 10, 15-yard gain when his receivers aren't open.
That's fair.
He just hasn't been able to do that. So anyway, let's move on to the next.
Maybe real quick, maybe that injury is the reason why. And with him maybe not wanting to re-injure himself, he's not the quarterback that you would want from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, to me, when I've seen him play, he just doesn't seem to have that same explosiveness, moving with the ball, without the ball, or with the ball.
Right.
The next one I had listed, we already talked a little bit about, was Justin Jefferson. That's one. Even as a Vikings fan, I can't in good conscience ever tell you to start him, because I just don't know if he's, at least this year, I don't know if he's going to really get the catches or touchdowns on a given week to make it worthwhile. I think he's like the number 50th rated or scoring wide receiver in the league. He's one of the most talented receivers, but the quarterback situation has been so awful. And then defenses know how awful the quarterback is, and so they scheme to double, bracket coverage, double coverage, all kinds of things with Justin Jefferson, and quarterbacks haven't been able to get him the ball. He had 2 catches for 4 yards last week.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you're going to talk about Saquon Barkley here in a second, and it all goes back to the same thing. This is why experienced fantasy owners loathe the number 1 overall pick in the fantasy draft season. And when we go to a preview show in August for fantasy football, it's like, do everything you can to make sure you don't have the first pick, because you put so much pressure on that top performer to perform. And it's not Justin Jefferson's fault that he's got Rossmer throwing him the football. He is the best receiver, maybe with Jamar Chase, in football right now. But if an untalented, struggling quarterback is tasked with getting the football to him, it doesn't matter how good he is. And you see this. And you see, like, the struggles of the Eagles offense, and like, Saquon, like, you would hope that he would be able to overcome that, but he can't. Like, there's so many factors that, like, having that number 1 pick sometimes is such a curse. Like, I remember last year I had a bunch of leagues where I drafted CMC 2 days before we found out he wasn't going to play for the first 10 weeks. Like, it is what it is when you have that high draft pick and you only get that one real blue chip player. There's so much pressure on that guy to perform.
Well, and I think sometimes you have to almost, if you get the first pick, you almost have to go off the board a bit and kind of, look at somebody other than the obvious choice of the consensus first overall player, because what you need, especially with your first round picks, is consistent production. And when you have somebody that is injury prone or is in a iffy situation, as far as the supporting cast, sometimes you have to kind of steer away from those kinds of players.
And how many, if those of you who are listening who have been in fantasy football for more than 2 or 3 years, how many times do you have the number 1 player from last season be even close to the number 1 player for the next season? It just doesn't happen. And I know that opens it up to projection and all these things, but the slam dunk number 1 overall pick rarely ends up being the best player.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and that's, another player that we can talk about, we've touched on already, Saquon Barkley. Last year averaged 5.5 yards per carry. This year he's at 3.7 yards per carry. I'm not sure. Well, I think it all comes down to the offensive line. They lost Mekhi Becton as a starting guard to free agency, so trying to fill his spot has been a little challenging. Lane Johnson has been banged up, so the offensive line just hasn't been there. But his numbers all season have been really pretty disappointing.
Yeah.
The whole Eagles offense has been disappointing, but anyway.
I was about to interject and say that whole Eagles offense has just been a complete conundrum all year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I was one of the shows I saw or listened to yesterday, one of the NFL Network shows, they had some audio of Eagles fans calling into their sports talk radio station there.
Ooh.
And just talking like the sky is falling, even though they're 8-4, like, oh, we are just a mess. We can't do anything right. And just going off about how awful the team is. And as a Vikings fan, I'm sitting here going, well,
I was about to say,
I'd love to be 8-4 right now.
Yeah, 8-4 is a mess. Like, give me that mess.
Yeah, I would love to have that. But yeah, so yeah, again, Saquon Barkley has been a tough one. And then the other one that I listed that I made a note about is Emeka Egbuka. Now, granted, he's a rookie, but early on in the season, he was just on fire. He has only scored one double-digit fantasy football game since week 5. So that's 7 games. Once has he gotten into double digits in PPR scoring leagues, which is what we always discuss here on. So part of that, I think, is Mike Evans and McMillan. I can't remember.
Shepard?
No. What the heck is it? He's the other wide receiver in.
Ted Johnson, Chris Godwin. I don't know.
Chris Godwin's out, but Jalen McMillan was the other one. I think both Evans and McMillan are, I think, entered into the 21-day window to return. So maybe once there's another competent wide receiver out there, that will draw some attention away from him, his numbers will pick back up. But so for me, it's going to be a little bit of a patience, but I'm going to be looking and making some tough decisions, even if projections show he'll have more yards or more points than some other guys out there. I'm going to be looking to find somebody else into my starting lineup if at all possible.
That's been one of the more confusing offenses this year, because there was a period of about 5-6 weeks where they looked like you could get a ton of fantasy value out of a lot of players in that system, and they were scoring well and doing great things. And then the last few weeks, it's just kind of fallen off to nothing. And it's not been the opponents. It hasn't been that you've had these great opponents. It's just the offense is just stalled out of nowhere. It's just kind of been bizarre, to be honest.
Right. Because at least with the Eagles, you could look at, okay, well, there's some offensive line issues and stuff. But with Tampa Bay, granted, Bucky Irving was out, but they were able to replace him with a combination of Rashad White and then Sean Tucker. So, but when it comes, Baker Mayfield has really been kind of hit or miss. I know he got injured a little bit recently, so he's not 100%. But their offense hasn't played to its capabilities in the past 6-7 weeks.
Maybe they bounce back against a pretty bad Saints team. But you never know. Like, it's just been weird with them lately.
Well, the Saints defense hasn't. I mean, it seems like they haven't given up a ton of points this year.
They should have last week, but
right. But that's the thing. It's like, what was the score of last week's game? Because I think
the Dolphins won by less than a touchdown. But they had a lot of opportunities that the Dolphins self-squandered. Like the Saints weren't a very strong defensive team.
Yeah,
they took Jalen Waddle away, but they didn't do a lot. Like Devon Achane just run right through them. That's not a good team overall. Like, there's no reason the Bucs shouldn't score 30 points against them.
Right.
Just none.
Right. Okay. Any other players
No.
that you were thinking about?
Those are the big ones. Let's move right along here.
We'll move along. Let's go into our let's talk about some matchups for this week. Let's look at some of our more favorable matchups first. So I guess for me, the ones I really like are you talked about earlier. Jameson Williams and Jared Goff are going against the Cowboys tomorrow night. I think that's on paper should be a good matchup. Dallas's defense has not been very good on against the pass, so I would say that should be a fairly solid matchup for the Lions passing game. I'm a little leery on what Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be able to do running the ball, just because of how.
Yes, Quinn Williams Tuesday. Yeah, for sure.
Quinn Williams has been a great addition to their defense.
Yes.
So their run defense has gotten a lot better this year since the beginning of the year. They've really improved.
Agreed.
Another one, I'm still trusting Josh Allen and the Bills offense going against Cincinnati. I think that's going to be a good matchup there. I like James Cook this week. I think Josh Allen's going to be able to put up some numbers. Probably more running the ball than he is passing. That all depends on if Dalton Kincaid is healthy, because I know he's still banged up and might not be active. I'm not sure what his injury status is, but so those are some of my favorite matchups, and we'll talk a little bit more position specific here in a little bit. Is there any other matchups that you really liked?
I mean, this is not going to shock anybody because everyone that has him is going to start him. But I think the Dolphins know that they are a run first team now. And with Quinn Williams out in New York, Devon Achane, to me, he's going to have a huge week against the Jets this week. And it's not, like I said, it's not shocking to anybody that you're going to start Devon Achane if you have him. He's the third leading rusher in the NFL right now. But I think if you have him in your lineup, you're looking really good to have 150 total yards in this game, because the Jets without Quinn Williams just aren't going to be able to stop him. And I think they're going to do everything they can to take Jalen Waddle away. And that's going to make Devon Achane just a very valuable player for you.
I agree. I think that's a great point, and I think he's probably going to be due for 5 or 6 receptions as well. Yeah. So when you factor in PPR, all those catches, 150 yards, probably a touchdown as well. Yeah, that's definitely somebody that is going to have a good matchup this week. Yep. So let's talk about some streaming defenses. As here we like to talk about, and look at who are some of the defenses to pick up and stream against certain offenses. So for me, a couple of them that I really like this week. Number one, the Washington Commanders going against my Vikings. While they have not been a solid defense this year, I think going against what has been a inept passing game with J.J. McCarthy and Max Brosmer, I think McCarthy should be back. I don't have a whole lot of faith in him suddenly learning how to throw the ball with a lot of consistency. So I would say Washington's defense would probably be a good option. They have not been able to protect the quarterbacks very well. Let's see. Christian Darrisaw missed last week's game. Their all-pro left tackle. He's back in practice this week. Donovan Jackson, the Vikings rookie left guard, who has been a very solid offensive lineman for the Vikings, has missed last week's game with an ankle injury and has not practiced yet this week. So I'm anticipating him not being there. Ryan Kelly left the game against the Seahawks with an injury as well. So if we've got a couple of backup offensive linemen starting against Washington, I think that's a pretty good matchup for Washington.
Mhm.
I like Miami's defense going against the Jets. Really like the Browns going against the Titans. The Browns are just a defensive juggernaut. Myles Garrett is absolutely phenomenal. And especially if you get points for sacks, that's definitely a start of the week there. Broncos against the Raiders, and then Seattle going against Atlanta with Kirk Cousins at quarterback. I expect Seattle to do great things again this week.
Quite frankly, you shouldn't be streaming Cleveland at this point. Like,
you should just have them.
You should
start
just
them every week.
They get sacked. Myles Garrett is getting sacks at a rate that I've never seen before. He's going to smash the sack record this year. It is just insane. Yep. So if you get points for sacks, you got to start Cleveland. They never give up more than 20, 25 points. They lose a lot because their offense is atrocious.
Yeah.
But who cares from a fantasy perspective? The one other defense that I would say that is I would be comfortable to start is that Steelers-Ravens game always seems to be just a slobber knocker, low-scoring game. There's a lot of noise going on in Pittsburgh right now between Mike Tomlin possibly being on the hot seat and Aaron Rodgers with his wrist and what's going on there. There's a lot of I would be comfortable starting the Ravens defense this week. Let's just put it's a home game. The Steelers have a lot going on right now. It feels kind of like they're falling apart. And I think the Ravens know this is their opportunity to take this division. They're right there at 6-6 with the Steelers. The Ravens are the better football team. And I actually expect the Ravens to have probably their best performance of the year this week against the Steelers. So I'd be comfortable starting the Ravens. I wouldn't be surprised if they got a defensive touchdown this week because Aaron Rodgers is kind of sold out on this team, not really seeming like he's that engaged in the process. And I wouldn't be surprised if he threw a pick six in the game.
Yeah. Well, but you can't forget that the Steelers picked up Adam Thielen too. So after the Vikings let him go, so that's going to be all the difference in the world for the Steelers.
I'm sure,
right, Ralph? Ralph's not around anymore. But no, yeah. Good luck to Adam Thielen. He's a class act.
Good kid.
He's great. Went to school at Minnesota Mankato, which is where my kids go to school right
now.
Did he? Yeah, that's where he went to college.
Wow,
he got a $500 scholarship. He grew up in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, which is northern Minnesota. Got a $500 scholarship to go to Mankato. That's the only place that gave him a scholarship. Played wide receiver there. Didn't get invited to the combine. Didn't get any kind of notice at all after college. Went to a regional combine like in Chicago or something like that and ran like a 4.46 40. The Vikings noticed him. They invited him to a like a mini camp thing with all kinds of rookies and undrafted free agents. And he impressed them so much that they ended up giving him one of the roster spots and released somebody that they had, an undrafted free agent that they had already signed and given a bonus to. So he starts out on the practice squad for like 2 years, finally gets on the field as a special teams guy, blocks a punt for a touchdown against Carolina. And then after that, he kind of worked his way back into the receiving corps. That was about, I think, 2014 when he blocked that punt. Then he became a regular receiver in like 2015 and was really developed from there. So talk about small school, Rudy type of success story. That was Adam Thielen, and he's just a great guy too.
A fun fact, I remember a couple of years ago when the Dolphins were really good and they had Tyreek Hill at peak performance. The Carolina Panthers came into Miami when Adam Thielen was a member of their team, and he just carved us up, and they got a huge lead, and we ended up coming back and pretty much dominating the game and winning against Carolina. But like for a while, we could not stop Adam Thielen. So good on him.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, we can get back to the any other streaming defenses.
No, those
Talk about all right.
Ravens are my start of the week. I would say that.
Yep.
You wouldn't expect that they would be someone you'd start right now, but I would start them.
All right, so let's go through all of our start sits for positions anyway. So for me, quarterback, Josh Allen going against the Bengals. As far as the sit for the week, initially I had Jaden Daniels written down, but it doesn't look like he's going to be playing, so Marcus Mariota is going to be getting that start. And I really think that the Vikings should be able to make things difficult for Marcus Mariota. The defense, while they lost last week, defense played really pretty well. And they're fairly healthy, so I think that's a good spot. At running back, again, I think it's going to be James Cook. He's just, again, great matchup going against the Bengals. And then the sit for me is Ashton Genty, who has been a fairly solid fantasy football performer just because of volume. He hasn't been overwhelming as far as being able to break off a ton of long runs or having a good average yards per carry, but he's been catching a bunch of balls out of the backfield. But I just think that, they're going against the Broncos this week. I just think that that's such a tough defense. I just don't know that he's going to be able to to do a whole lot. For wide receivers, Jamison Williams, again, you and I are thinking alike there. And then said again, Justin Jefferson. I can't start him until JJ McCarthy shows that he can actually throw the ball consistently. For tight ends to start, I got Tyler Warren going against Jacksonville. I think he's going to have I think that's a pretty solid matchup. The sit for me, crazy enough, is Travis Kelce going against Houston. Houston's defense is no joke. They are just dominant. I don't have the exact stats as to what they're able to do against tight ends, but just their defense in general is so good. Teams have really had a hard time moving the ball against them. And then my overall start of the week, I wrote down two: James Cook and the Devon Achane. I think both of those guys are going to be putting up some great numbers.
So almost every week this year, I've picked my start of the week to be a tight end that I feel like last week it was Brenton Strange. He didn't have a great game, but he did find the end zone.
Yeah.
That wasn't too bad. I'm going to stick with the tight end position and a guy that just came back from the injury report. And I've told you all about the struggling Dolphins offense. I think that Darren Waller has an opportunity to have a really good start this week because he's a big target. Tua is really struggling. And I think teams are going to take Jalen Waddle out of the game. So when the Dolphins do have to pass, I think Darren Waller is going to be the go-to. Now that he's had a week under his belt, they're going to give him a little bit more snaps. So that's my start of the week. Is I think that if you're struggling for a tight end, Darren Waller might still be available because it's kind of been under the radar. He's been out for a few weeks. He might still be available. Pick him up, put him in your lineup. There's a floor there because he's a big target that the Dolphins need right now.
All right. So I don't have a little tag for this. I'm just going to hide this one, but let's talk about the weather for this weekend. Now we're getting into this time of the season when you got to deal with snow, cold, wind, some things like that. So as I was looking at some of those tough weather games, you got, to me, Cincinnati at Buffalo. It looks like the high is projected to be about 28 degrees, 40% chance of snow. So that's going to be a tough one. Buffalo this time of the year is always crazy. Cleveland, same thing, similar temperatures and also a chance of snow. And then Chicago against Green Bay. In Green Bay, high of 16 and a 30% chance of snow is what it looks like right now. So those are some weather games to keep an eye on. And I think we already talked about two of the Ravens Steelers game is probably going to be having some bad weather. There's a lot of snow going through the upper Midwest this week. Yeah. So that's going to be impacting some of those games.
If you have a deep league with a lot of teams, 10, 12 teams, and there's not a lot of those streaming defenses that we talked about, because of this, Tennessee might not be the worst play.
Oh, absolutely.
Tennessee has one of the worst teams in the league. But Cleveland doesn't have a dynamic offense. Shedeur Sanders is going to make his mistakes. And in that weather, that Tennessee Cleveland game could be a 9-6 type of game where, especially if you get a lot of points for low scoring, I don't see how the Cleveland Browns are going to score 20, 25 points. So you even like your floor is pretty good. I know that Tennessee, you would never think to pick them for, but I guarantee they'll be available. Yeah. And if you're really struggling, that might be someone to look at.
Yeah, heck, it could be a 5-3 game.
Yeah.
Just with that. Anyway, yeah, that's a great point. Using that weather to your defense's advantage. So let's close it out here. Talk about how our teams are doing. For me, I went 2-1 this past week, lost in the IESR league, and have officially been eliminated from playoff contention. So, but the other two leagues, I'm in decent shape. So, yeah, I'm looking good. Got one more week before the playoffs start in one of my leagues, and the other league just goes a regular season all the way through week 18. So, doing well there. Anyway, how about for you?
So my wife's work league, I've been telling you all, I had a big winning streak after starting 0-2. We had a 10-game win streak, finally lost this week
no
season, but still the number one seed. And sitting here with a bye this week, just waiting on next week. So it's all good. But we're really kind of hoping that she could get a 0-2 to never losing again streak. So lost that.
Yeah, that's all right. At least you guys get to rest for 2 weeks.
Exactly. And then in our IESR league, still I'm now 5-8. Thank you, Joey Jets, for handing me a loss this week, but still have the most points in the league. So 2 weeks to go in that league before playoffs, and I have to basically win out, and I have all the tiebreakers because I have the most points in the league, but I have to hope for some losses to make the playoffs. It's one of those times that happens in fantasy football. The best teams don't make the playoffs always.
Yep.
So it just is what it is.
Awesome. All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Again, you've been watching the End Zone Oracle here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And be sure to check us out next week. We'll be back on again, same time. And if you have any questions for us, reach out to us on social media, and we will do our best to answer those questions for you. Have a great week. Bye, everyone.
Peace.